All right, what's going on, boys and girls? This is going to be a little bit of a different kind of video. Few of my videos have been controversial given my opinions on people. So I want to try to clarify my opinions without so much the swearing, because people know my reaction videos for the swearing, and that's fine, whatever. But I'm going to give it to you more in a level, calm, even leveled nature. So first off, my most recent one was with Eposvox. Okay, so here's my issue with Eposvox. When your ego is too big to admit that the problems were not with the system, but you, it says a lot about you, homie. You want to blame the OS, blame the OS. But when someone looks at it, and when I'm quoting you here now, I know what the hell I'm doing. And I see a video of you doing shit that someone who uses that system should know not to do. It shows me that your ego is too big to admit that you don't know what the hell you're doing. And that's something that takes a mental check on your end. Example I gave. I don't talk about iOS or macOS. macOS I haven't used since El Capitan, so 10.11. I can't speak on it with any certain authority. I can only speak up to that point. iOS. I can't talk about iOS since whenever the 3GS fell off the map as far as a supported device. That should tell you. But I can tell you about BlackBerry 10. I can tell you about Linux and Windows and various other things because I have the knowledge in them. And if I'm wrong in something that I say, but I'm wrong, I admit it. You and your problem, and the problem I have with you is you have such a following that you can't admit, and you won't admit that at times your ego gets in the way. Because you hold yourself on such this weird, like, high pedestal. It's fine to think you're good, dude. My problem is when you think you're so good that you can't admit when you're wrong. And that's what I was getting at in that particular video. You were wrong. So maybe look at your ego and then take any preconceived notions you have and, kind of put them in reality. Because again, I can even go one better. You have these preconceived notions that Linux users don't pay for software because it's open. They only do open source. Homie, I buy most of my software on Linux, so screw off. So again, you have these preconceived notions that you think are right. Whatever. You can point and counterpoint to anything. You want to point to Linux users don't buy software. You want to point to Linux users don't buy stuff. Ask Barton George how well the Sputnik stuff is done. Just saying. So that's my problem with Eposvox. Might want to get that inflated ego checked, homie. Next up, we have Bryan Lunduke. Okay. Seething hatred does not begin to state how much I dislike Lunduke. But my dislike for Lunduke is multifaceted. I believe he is a liar, a hypocrite, and quite frankly, while I said Eposvox has an overinflated ego, Lunduke is a overinflated, overopinionated ego person that for some reason the community holds in high regard. So here's my breakdown of Lunduke and my issues with Lunduke. WC3. Community gives them, what, $1,200, $1,500, whatever the fuck the cost of the application process cost. End of the day, a year later or more, he doesn't join because of all the secrecy or whatever the hell it was. And fucking, I can't be bothered to sit through an entire Lunduke video. Basically, it was he didn't like the thing he had to sign, the contract he had to sign because of this. You can't report this to journalist thing. Don't get me started on and that's something that I'm going to run into. Lunduke, as a journalist, quote unquote, is not a journalist. He is an over-opinionated blogger. So desperately wanting to be considered a journalist. My biggest issue with Lunduke is clickbaity bull. So here's the thing. A couple of years ago, Matthew Garrett tweeted out, Jim Zoman, or something about the head of the Linux Foundation using a Mac. Okay. Lunduke takes that and runs with it. And does like a 23-minute video and a write-up and all this other crap about why this is how it's bad and all this other stuff. It's a tweet. There's no picture, no correlation, no vetting of the source. Matthew Garrett is not exactly the most, shall we say, reliable source. If you saw it, every single one of these damn things nowadays has a friggin' camera attached to it. Click. So I'm calling bull, and the fact that Lunduke ran with it and other websites because of him ran with it, give me a break. No vetting of your sources at all. My other issues with Lunduke. You plant your flag in the SUSE ground for a while by working for Novell or whatever the hell it's called, or SUSE now, or whatever the fuck it's called. Here's my issue with that. You do that for what, a year or two at most? Then you go and the second you're not there to shill that product as the community manager, as you should if you're the community manager, you do nothing but rank on the project. I mean, give me a break. You are so hypocritical. We can go from a further stretch. 2012. You and Chris Fisher for last do an interview with Richard Stallman. And all you can do the entire time is essentially be an ass. And don't get me wrong, I have my issues with Stallman. Basically, Stallman is one short sum to me. One great idea does not make you the authority on it. But as far as that particular interview, then 5 years later, when you do the interview with him, you're kissing his ass. There's change, then there's ass kissing. There's hypocrisy, and the list goes on. Another issue I take with Lunduke. Illumination software creator much? And yes, I was actually one of those people that actually did pay you on a month-to-month basis for Illumination software creator when you tried to open source it. I did that for a long time. Even after you closed sourced it like a douche. Because you said if you met this goal every month, you would open source this stuff. Eating your own dog food was your own words. A month, maybe 2 months later, you end up close sourcing that again and saying you weren't making it when you were reporting the numbers and you were making it. Because basically what you said was, as long as you make X at the end of the year, I can survive. And me and my family can survive. That is where I take issues with you. You are a hypocrite. You are a liar. An over-opinionated blogger who so desperately wants to be considered a tech journalist, and someone that, for God knows what reason, the Linux community thinks you're an authority, and for God knows what reason they hold your opinion in high value. I will never understand. You are essentially Stallman. You had one great idea. Does not make you an authority on it. My take on Lunduke as a whole. Liar, hypocrite, over-opinionated blogger who wants to be considered a journalist. And the one thing out of all of that you will never be, Bryan, is a journalist. Because you don't vet your shit. Opinion is not journalism. might want to kind of learn that. So those are the two people that I take the most issue with currently. And that's just my take on them, my opinion on them. I could be right, I could be wrong. These are my perceptions and the way I view these guys from my own research, my own takes, and my own interactions. Whether or not you agree or disagree, I really don't care. But people want to know where I'm coming from. That is where I'm coming from in the baseline I see things at. So, again, agree, disagree, don't care. Have your own opinions of people. Discourse is good. So is an engagement. I'm not afraid of it. Unfortunately, I just know Eposvox, and I also know, Bryan Lunduke aren't so much into that. More power to them. Lunduke, you kind of like the tuck your tail between your legs and run. I think you got yellow on your back, buddy. Because anytime there's any criticism of you, you don't engage. At least Eposvox does. I'll give him that. I might not like him, but at least I'll give him that. I'm just waiting for the day, Lunduke, you actually have a pair of balls.